have found out that some friends of ours who live in Virginia had to go in over the weekend to the emergency room to get a x-ray done of their child's foot, and no one was at the hospital was wearing PPE. They were not following the protocols. This mom and her family actually know that they do have a positive member in the household with COVID. And even with somebody testing positive and then letting the staff know up front that they tested positive, they asked that the parent bring the child into the ER waiting room to get the x-ray done. Nobody was wearing masks. The parent asked repeatedly about being able to stay in the car, fill out paperwork in the car, and that request was denied. And the parent did explain fully over the phone before they got there and when they went in person that they had all been exposed to COVID, and that someone at home was positive for COVID, and that they all had symptoms of COVID, but only one person had tested positive. The rest of them had tested negative, but they all had exactly the same symptoms. So that brings up something. We still do not have great specificity in the United States, and the sensitivity is not fabulous. So the likelihood of having a false positive is very, very slim unless someone has accidentally contaminated your sample. The likelihood of having a false negative is about 40%. In other countries, they're addressing this they have a very strict protocol. You get tested first of all, they're contact tracing everybody. So if there is any chance of you having been exposed, you're quarantined, and then you're tested on day 3, you're tested on day 8, you're tested on day 13, and if all of those come back negative, you're getting a fecal sample test to rule out a false negative, because those are more expensive. And that way they can conserve resources. And then if that is negative also, yay, you actually don't have it. And you can go about your life and everybody's great. But if you test positive on that, then they know that you've been exposed. Now, even if you don't ever get sick, you still could have been spreading it all that time. And so they have to make sure that you're testing negative for an extended period of time, even if you don't have symptoms, even if you don't have a fever, to make sure that you're not spreading the virus. This country isn't following that. That's why we have almost 300,000 people who have died. That's why we account for a quarter of the world's caseload, even though we don't even make up 5% of the global population. If we want this to change, then people need to start taking personal responsibility, personal accountability, start asking the harder, more difficult questions. Dying from this really isn't so bad. You're dead. You don't have anything else you have to worry about. Your family is left behind. They have to grieve you. But dying, that's the easy part. Those of us who had it in March, before you could get tested for it, before you could prove that you had it, because this country was requiring that you'd been exposed to somebody who definitely had it before they would test anybody. Those of us with those cases, those of us who survived, it's been over 6 months. We're still dealing with flares. We're still getting sick. We still have GI problems. We'll still go 2-3 weeks without being able to smell or taste anything. We still feel like somebody's running a live electrical wire under our skin. It may last for 2 days. It may last for 2 hours. It might last for 2 weeks. They have no way to deal with it. So, people, please wear your mask, social distance, stay at home, look at what the rest of the globe is doing, where the intelligent people live. You can be intelligent too. It's a choice. Have fun. Everybody have a great week. Sorry to be Debbie Downer.